Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:34 p.m. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Work Session of Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Did anyone sign up to speak on any items listed on the work session agenda?
No one signed up. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there a report on the City Council meeting decisions of February 6th and February 27th?
Yes, you have the first meeting report in your packet, and then passed out to you today was the February 27th, which had the bulk of the cases from last month. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about that report? No? All right. The Planning and Development Committee Liaison Report for February 6th, 2025. April, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay, nothing this evening. All right, well, then let's go on to a review of the public hearing items.
Okay. You have three items that were on consent agenda for disapproval. Three of the four, or actually you had four for disapproval. The first three of those, items 3, 4, and 5, can be moved to consent agenda. So those will need
For
to be.
approval, you mean?
For approval. Yes, I'm sorry. So for consent for approval, you'll read in the minutes and 2024-125-PL, 2025-4-PL, and 2025-42-PL. And I'd like to do a special shout out to Gina, who has worked tirelessly and patiently today with multiple applicants to get all three of these to the point where they could be approved today instead of having to wait 30 days and come back next month. So I want to give a special kudos to Gina for herding these cats today.
But we still have the one.
You have the one for disapproval, yeah.
So item number 6 is for still for
Item
disapproval.
is 6 is for disapproval, 3, 4, and 5 are for approval.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. And so the first regular individual item is item number 7. And I want to say something real quick before, as Jace comes up here in his spiffy new suit, it looks like, and say that this is our last meeting with Jace. So he is leaving us for the city of Plano, and so we're going to sorely miss him. And we are wishing him best of luck. So go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Gillis, Planner. So the first case I will be presenting is a companion case. So if it's okay with you, I can present them both at the same time and then
That'd
do
be great.
questions after.
Yeah.
So the first case I have is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2024-446-CP at 4216 South Greenview Drive. The current comprehensive plan amendment is designated for business office, and the applicant is wanting to amend that to manufacturing warehouse. Staff recommends denial, and we see no letters in support or in opposition. Here's the aerial map showing the 1.51 acre site currently with a single family home. This is surrounded by vacant land that is currently owned by DFW Airport. So for this area, it's currently next to 161 Service Road and South Greenview Drive, which is a residential local road. Here's the future land use showing business office. Business office designation consists of flexible retail, office space, and they're wanting to go to manufacturing warehouse to include manufacturing, warehouse, and distribution type uses. Here is the surrounding zoning map. This is zone SP1 and greenhouse as well under the 161 overlay. In the 160 overlay, warehouse is a prohibit use, and I'll get to that in the zoning case, but this is surrounded by R6 zoning. Here's the notification map, and then based on future land use designation, it does go through specific criteria for non-residential use transitioning to non-residential use. If there's if it meets this criteria, if it be new construction, the development conforms to the new use standards, the area meets all compatibility standards for adjacent uses, and the rezoning does not cause any negative impacts on adjacent uses. Based on staff's analysis, we do not believe it meets the criteria. Specifically, the rezoning does not cause any negative impacts on adjacent uses, since this is in the 161 overlay and is prohibited, but also due to this being a residential area. The roads at the time were built for residential use, and that could cause more harm later if it be changed to manufactured warehouse and expand to the other properties as well. So based on this, and the final majority, and also the surrounding area being owned by DFW Airport, it is unknown what the long-term development will be for them. So staff does recommend approval for does not recommend denial due to not meeting the criteria. And then to go into the zoning case, 2024-429-CC, also at 4216 South Greenview Drive, currently zoned SP1 detailed site plan for single family and nursery greenhouse in State Highway 161 Overlay District. And they're wanting to rezone to SP1 CW detailed site plan commercial warehouse in State Highway 161 Overlay. Staff does recommend denial, and we see no letters in support or in opposition. Here's the aerial map again, showing the property next to the vacant land. Here's the future land use map, the surrounding zoning map, the notification map, and then here's the site plan also showing the variances that they're asking for. So due to this being the 161 overlay, they do need a setback variance because of the building being 25 feet away from the property line instead of 40 feet. They also are wanting to increase the maximum height from 30 feet to 40 feet. And then since this is in the 161 overlay, specifically subdistrict 2C, which prohibits warehouse, even though it is allowed in commercial warehouse, they need a variance to allow that in the 161 overlay. Here is the subject property from Greenview Drive, east of subject property, west of subject property, and the subject property from State 161. The staffs from traffic, fire, water utilities, and CIP have reviewed. Few of the staffs made comments. So fire stated that the future development must comply with all IFD codes and ordinances and fire code violations, as noted in their building permit application that they submitted. CIP stated that this property would need to be replatted, as this is a partial lot. And water utility stated that all developments would need to meet the utility requirements, and then traffic stated that trucks shall not access Greenview Drive, and that an emergency exit only point can be supported only by the fire department. So currently, based on the site plan, they would not be able to have the trucks go from Greenview Drive, only from State Highway 161. But based on the comprehensive plan amendment and and seeing the possible negative impacts, staff cannot support this case. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
On the image you have that shows the surrounding properties, how much of those surrounding properties are owned by the airport?
All of these going down here, and I think even on this side of Justin Drive as well, is owned by DFW Airport.
What about on that interior part of Greenview?
This part, yes, that's also owned by DFW Airport.
Okay, so was this all a residential area and then all the residences were torn down?
Yes.
How did this one property end up still there?
I can answer that. So the buyout program in 1995, I believe, was for the far east runway. They were required by the FAA to offer the buyout. People were not required to accept it. So there are a handful of, if you go to a further out aerial, you'll find a handful of people that did not take them up on, this being one of those properties that did not take them up on it. So,
Okay. Now, I mean, it said that the underlying zoning, though, was for I guess it said family and nursery greenhouse?
yeah, that was the zoning for, at the time that was done. This was before the runway and everything. That was for, they were doing a
But then how did it-
greenhouse and nursery. I can't, yeah.
I
I
mean,
wasn't
how
here
did-
at that time, so.
How did it end up with a residence on it then?
Residence with
And
a
with greenhouse.
nursery.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
I just have a guess, a comment. I actually think this is a difficult case because typically these kinds of cases present a question of maintaining the integrity and character of a neighborhood. This one, it strikes me, turning it into a warehouse might be more in line with the character of the neighborhood, although there does seem to be concern about like the entrance and exit and whether or not the site plan that's been provided, if the vision for the property really is suitable for the lot. But I am sympathetic to wanting to use the property for something other than a residence. So I guess, can you speak to, like, would this otherwise be an okay change of designation if they weren't asking for things like the setbacks? Or is this really, you're looking for something more consistent, or just not changing the designation because that's the vision for the area?
Staff doesn't support changing the designation to manufacturing warehouse. For one thing, we don't know yet what DFW Airport is going to do in the area, and we don't want to kind of, and the 161 overlay does, by the zoning of it, does not allow warehouses on this side on the east side of 161. So we don't want to kind of cast the dice, if you will, for that becoming, DFW coming in wanting to do warehouse there by kind of seeding it on our own. Additionally, the infrastructure is really not, the infrastructure is old. It's still set up for residential streets. It's not set up to have a warehouse at the far end of the street and everything. So it's just not, it's really premature, frankly, for that kind of use. We believe the business office is appropriate, certainly until we, have further discussions with DFW Airport down the road in the future. So.
Thank you.
So something you said, something more like business office would be a more appropriate type of use.
Yeah, that's the future land use designation right now.
Okay. Any other?
So is there any use right now? I mean, is it occupied? Is it occupied?
It looked like it.
I don't know. Is
It looked like people
occupied?
were living there.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
The owner, I believe,
Yeah.
is living there.
It looks pretty well maintained.
There seemed to be some construction material in the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, everything will be torn. If this is approved, everything will be torn down. But
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
So the next case I have is conditional use permit 2024-449-CUP. It is currently located at 116, 120, and 124 Strickland Plaza. The request is a conditional use permit to allow outside storage in the Heritage Crossing District. Staff recommends, if approved, a time limit of 5 years. We have seen no letters in support or in opposition. Here is the aerial map showing the 0.42 acre site right here outlined in red. Just north of the property, the owner also owns this lot as well and is currently using it for auto sales, and they're wanting to ask for the conditional use permit for outside storage to be able to store their cars on the southern portion. This currently is being used for outside storage, with currently being enclosed by a blind fence with pavement, and right now it's next to, the area is a little bit of industrial in the north, west a little bit of office warehouse, and then retail to the eastern portion. Here is the future land use map being Main Street downtown. Here's the surrounding zoning map, the notification map, and then here is the site plan showing the outside storage and how right now this has already been paved. They've already paved it, and they got a permit for that months ago, and so currently they're just asking for this to be able to store the cars on the property so they can have more expansion for their business. In the CUP, for CUPs, City Council is able to may permit conditions based on certain safeguards if it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, compatible with existing adjacent uses, compatible with the preserves the character of the area, doesn't cause any negative impact, and is not materially detrimental. They can also make any limitations, if it be time limit, landscaping, placement of orientation, buffer yards, and things of that nature. So here's the subject property showing the fence that's surrounding it. This is the northern subject property, so this is where the auto sales is currently going on. This is west of the subject property, and then this is south, being the retail. And then based on staff's analysis, since HCD is still in transition and staff feels like recommending a 5-year time limit would be good to review the business before expiration, considering redevelopment progress in HCD, and the city council can either renew the CUP or require the business and cease operation. And I'll be happy to answer any questions for this one.
Did I understand correctly, they're already using it in this way?
Yes.
Okay, so they're trying to get permission for what they're currently doing? Okay,
This property here actually used to be Luke 12 Towing, their vehicle recovery lot. Years, this property's been used that way for the last, I know of, probably 15, 20 years.
and that fence has been there a while?
Yes.
Yeah, it looked like it, all right. Any other questions? No? Great, thank you.
All right, good evening, Haley Riddick with Planning. So this case is Development Plan 2025-46 DVP. It's located at 8350 North MacArthur Boulevard. Their request for the development plan is to allocate acreage from the PUD Valley Ranch for SP1 RAB uses. After review, staff recommendation is approval. And in terms of public comment, there is none in support or in opposition. So this is the location of the site. Future land use, which is business office. And then for the zoning, most of it is kind of commercial neighborhood with some residential, but kind of see to the south here, that's what would be residential, but it hasn't been developed. And then this also has R40, but is not developable due to power lines. Notification map. And then this is the suite itself. It's number 120. It has a hookah lounge to the right of it, and then to the left is a restaurant. So northeast, this is kind of where the power lines are. And this is to the south, so the vacant is kind of where this R6 would be. And then this is currently a church. And then this is southwest of the subject property, so more retail and commercial. And then this is the zoning case for it, 2025 to ZC, so same location. They're going to go from PUD Valley Ranch, per development plan 74, fifth revision for neighborhood commercial, and they want to take it to PUD for SP1 RAB, so that restaurant with a attended accessory use for sale of alcohol beverages on premise consumption. After review, staff recommendation is approval, and there has been none in support or in opposition. So this is where the suite is, particularly not just the site overall. And then same, future land use, business office, zoning, notification map. And then this is their site plan. They're wanting to do, the suite itself is just over 3,000 square feet. They're going to have indoor and outdoor seating, a max of 65 seats. And they want to do a sports bar, I believe. The applicant is here tonight, so he can kind of answer any of those questions in terms of the actual business. And I'm open to any comments and questions you have right now.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll be doing this next one. So this is for zoning case 2025-11 ZC. This is at 2705 North Beltline Road. They're going to go from a detailed site plan for neighborhood commercial to just straight neighborhood commercial. After review, the staff recommendation is approval. And in terms of public comments, there's been none in support or in opposition. So this used to be a Boston Market, the Chick-fil-A, the old Chick-fil-A site north of it. And then this is the future land use, which is the regional commercial, I believe. Yes, local commercial, my apologies. And then for the zoning, it's a lot of like neighborhood and community commercial. And this is the property owner notification map. And then, once again, this is the subject property, so that Boston Market, the Chick-fil-A, that's their neighbor. Chipotle, which is across the street, and then their other neighbor is kind of like a little retail strip. And since they're not asking for any variances, there's no site plan. The plan is to do a El Campero restaurant, and they want to have a drive-through. There will be some outside seating, and if there's any comments or questions.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
All right.
Jason Gillis, planner, and for the next case, it will be another companion case, so I'll do those together.
Thank you.
For the first one, it's Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2025-45-CP at 1660 North Westwood Circle. The current future land use designation is business office, and the applicant is going to change that to manufacturing warehouse. Staff recommends approval, and we see no letters in support or in opposition. So recently on February 6th, city staff provided a review to the Planning and Development Committee. As you have already seen, there is some changes going on to our comprehensive plan amendment with different future land use categories changing. This is one you have not seen yet, but you will at some point. So this was presented to them on February 6th, that this area, specifically where in yellow is where the lot is, but all of Walnut Hill area to change from business office to manufacturing warehouse. This is something staff has just looked at due to some of the changes going on in the area, and a lot of the manufacturing warehouse, a lot of these lots are already zoned ML20 or maybe partially ML20 to get them to transition over. Here is the existing land use and zoning district. So in yellow, here's the lot we're currently looking at, and how part of this right now is already zoned ML20A and part of its zone commercial office. Here's the aerial map showing the lot in red. To the north, it's currently vacant, and to the east, there is some office, some warehousing, and some warehousing to the south, as well as a church to the southeast. Here's the future land use showing current designation as business office. To the northwest of the property, it is zoned manufacturing warehouse. This recently happened back in 2023, that this designation was changed for this property. Here's the surrounding zoning showing the split in the zoning district. Here's the notification map. And then here's the criteria amendment for non-residential uses desiring to transition to different non-residential uses. It needs to comply with construction, development conforms to new use standards, the area meets all compatibility standards, and the rezoning does not cause any negative impacts to adjacent uses. Based on staff analysis and already looking at this area to change into manufacturing warehouse, staff can support this future land use amendment. And then here is the zoning case, 2025-15-CC at 1660 Northwest Circle. It is currently zoned under two zoning districts, CO Commercial Office and ML28 Light Industrial 20A. They're wanting to rezone to completely ML20 Light Industrial 20A, and staff recommends approval, and we see no letters in support or in opposition. So here's that proposed future land use category again. Here is that existing land use and zoning districts showing the changes in some of this being office warehouse, and then the changes going to warehouse and industrial. Here's the aerial map, future land use map, and here's the surrounding zoning map showing how to the north this got zoned back in 2023. Also to this property is zoned SP2 ML20, and there's some other ML20 more south and more southwest, and then it goes more office going eastern. Here's the notification map, and here's the applicant's illustrative plan to demolish the current office building and build two warehouses building, being about 122 square feet. This development would comply with all ML20A requirements, that'd be parking, landscaping, and setbacks, so they were not needing a site plan for this case. Here's the subject property from Gateway Drive, subject property from Westridge. North of subject property, we're currently And if you've driven out there, you probably saw the construction going on for the warehouse that's going to be built. West of subject property, south of subject property, and east of subject property. And based on the comprehensive plan amendment and staff being able to support that to the transition from office to manufacturing warehouse, staff is able to support this zoning change. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I had an office on and off on Greenway, about a block and a half away from that building. So I'm kind of partial to that area. And I know I voted for the warehouse distribution center that's under construction now. That particular property sits up really high. We don't have a lot of height. I hate to see a warehouse going in there when you've got office buildings east of that. So staff really feels like this is the right place for continued warehouse and distribution center development?
So, yes, but this is the cutoff. So this lot is on the last edge. So everything east of it would not be changing based on the proposal. What would staff want to manufacturing warehouse? Everything else would say business office. This is the last lot that was considered.
And this building's empty now?
It's completely vacant.
Yeah, well, I had a similar concern. I mean, when I drove through the area, it struck me as kind of an office park type of areas to maintain a business park type of area. Then I wouldn't be as supportive. So I'm a little torn on this one, but because it is a nice area.
Can you pull back up the previous map where it was showing the land uses?
This one?
Yeah. So where is the edge at?
Right here. So this is the property, and then that's the edge. So the property just east of it also would be considered, and then everything else is business office.
And which highway is that? I can't see.
160.
161, okay.
Can you point on that, where, that new development, where
This
is
one?
that? Sorry, no, the map you were on. Yeah, the warehouse is being built. Is it just south of what you're talking about, or is it,
Just north.
oh, just north?
Right
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
I'm torn too.
Yeah, it's that little purple right there.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gina Costanza Grant, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. The next case is 2025-20-CP. It's a comprehensive plan amendment for 1301 Ronnie Drive. They're requesting to change the future land use from local commercial to compact neighborhood. Staff recommendation is for approval. We did receive one comment form in support and none in opposition. This is the aerial of the property under consideration. And this is the future land use map. You can see this was one small pocket of local commercial on the corner, and kind of matches the small little parcels of commercial on either side. This is the surrounding zoning map. And this is the property owner notification map boundary. And these are the criteria that we consider when we are changing a property that's developed for non-residential use to a residential use. The first one is that the area is physically appropriate, that it is adjacent to a residential neighborhood shown on the generalized future land use map and is not separated from the neighborhood by a major thoroughfare. That it will not result in a shortage of land designated for non-residential development, that the rezoning doesn't leave a residual tract of non-residentially zoned property that doesn't conform to the generalized future land use map, that the rezoning provides for an appropriate transition between residential and non-residential uses, and that non-residential use is the same intensity or is compatible in density and intensity with the existing or adjacent surrounding land uses. The staff does believe that all of these criteria are met except for the one that is regarding the residual tract of non-residentially zoned property. If I can go back to this map, the property to the south right here, even though the future land use map has it designated for compact neighborhood, for many years, I think it was actually the original zoning case that took in the majority of the city and designated the base land use categories, was designated as CN. Regardless, it has been developed with a single-family home for many years. And so, again, even though that small parcel there is zoned for local commercial uses, it is developed with single-family. I'll go ahead and progress to the zoning request that is related to this case, 2025-18-ZC. They are requesting to rezone the property from SP2 R75 or generalized site plan for single-family residential 7.5 to two different tracts. They want to rezone the bottom portion of the property or the southern portion of the property, which we're labeling as Tract 1, to residential townhome, and the northernmost piece of property closest to the intersection for residential zero lot line. Again, the staff does recommend approval. We received one comment letter in support and none in opposition. And again, the aerial, future land use map, surrounding zoning, property owner notification, and this is the aerial showing the northern tract divided right here from the southern tract that he wishes to go to RTH. Since he is not anticipating any variances that are needed to either of those zoning districts, there was not any need for a detailed site plan or a generalized site plan. This is looking at the subject property from Ronnie Drive. This is looking at the subject property from West Shady Grove. This is looking west of the subject property, looking north across West Shady Grove, looking to the east across Ronnie Drive, and looking to the south. And again, just resting on the aerial map of the property, I am happy to take any questions that y'all might have.
Any questions? Do we have any sense of how many townhomes would potentially be on that southern lot?
Yes, he has gone through many iterations, the applicant with us before, just to make sure he would hopefully not run into any sizing issues or variance issues once he gets to the platting stage. He is hoping to allow for three townhouse lots. They are required to be a minimum of 30 feet in width for front access, which would be onto Ronnie Drive. I know in the staff report, we spoke about them being rear-loaded, but after having further discussions with the applicant, we realized that that piece has enough width to accommodate the 30-foot lot width for the front-loaded townhouse lots. The lot to the north would have one lot. The reason he chose to zone that one as RZLA as opposed to another townhouse lot was just because there are utilities, utility lines, an Encore utility line dividing the property, and he was not sure that they would agree to move those lines. So the one lot size that would fit that particular parcel would be a zero lot line property. So he would just have a zero lot line adjacent to the townhome lots.
So it would be 4 homes altogether.
4 homes altogether, 3 townhomes and 1 basically single-family home on a small lot.
So a question, we've seen zero lot line lots in the past. That strikes, usually there's a number that are together, it's part of like, say, maybe a small plan subdivision. I don't think it's usually on like a main road. So it just strikes me as a little out of place. Can you speak to, I mean, is that common to see or is it in character with the area?
It's, I guess, considered adjacent to the single family, and he's got duplexes to the west here. There's a little neighborhood of duplexes. The rest of it is single family. So we felt that with the transition to a slightly higher density towards the corner, that would not be inappropriate. It has been zoned for R75 for a long time and has never developed. Not that it couldn't be, but I would imagine that someone with a single-family or less dense home may not want to locate as close to the corner. But that being said, yes, I understand your comment about the zero lot line is typically for a series of homes that would have one zero side. And again, the main reason he chose this particular zoning classification for that lot is because it does not meet any of the single-family requirements for an R6 or those. It's slightly under 5,000 square feet. So it's just odd in that it's isolated by the utilities crossing it, and it would be difficult to develop it with any other kind of townhome or single family unless he were to be able to get those utilities moved.
Is the person who, there was one person in support of this, correct?
Yes.
Is that somebody who's a resident nearby?
Yeah, he's two houses down, so not this house or this house, but the one right below it.
Okay.
So you don't have a site plan? Or what
No,
am I
there are
looking-
no variances, so when there are no variances and they're just requesting straight zoning, we don't require them to supply a site plan.
So-
But we did try to work through all these scenarios with him so that he had some idea visually how he could divide these lots in the future.
So will there be a driveway in the middle of both lots?
No, there would be a driveway here to access this lot, and then 3 driveways here to access the townhomes. I don't believe transportation would allow access through this rear, I'm not sure what it's called. It's public right-of-way, but it's technically not a named street.
It's kind of just an orphan piece of right-of-way. It's been there a long time. No, they'd have to meet all the requirements of our access management manual as far as driveway placement, width, geometry. They'll still have to do all of that, so we'll, once we get to the planning or building permit stage, we'll work through driveway access at that time.
Question, so I can appreciate the challenge of developing that top lot. I mean, other than having to replat, are there reasons why those 2 lots couldn't be combined? So it's not sort of an orphan lot, or are there other challenges with that?
From everything that we've discussed, it's simply the utility lines that cross the property there.
Are the utility lines where that division of the properties is that more or less where they are?
More or less. It was, those utility lines were installed a very long time ago, and apparently there is not even an easement there, which is odd. However, I know Cody gave me a little explanation on why that happened earlier, and I think it had to do with the abandonment of some right-of-way, or, I'm sorry, not the abandonment of right-of-way, but the reallocation of right-of-way to property owners when Shady Grove was reconfigured in that location. This is from Ronnie. It's just not far enough away on the other side of the street where you can really get a feeling of where the property line is.
You mentioned on the zero lot line, only one side has to be zero lot line, right?
Correct,
So
yes.
on the north side, will they have a fence?
It would have to be outside of any setback, and they would have a
Right.
double frontage there. So it would be an increased setback for that fence unless it was kept at 4 feet tall with 50% visibility.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know, is his plans to develop this to sell the 4 units or to rent?
That I do not know, but he will be here at the public hearing if you want to ask him.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, so I'll be presenting, it's a comp plan amendment, it's also a zoning case, companion case. This is for 4401 North State Highway 161, zoning case number, or comprehensive plan number 2025-25 CP, sorry. Currently, the future land use is regional commercial, and they're wanting to redesignate it as a manufacturing warehouse. After review, staff recommendation is approval, and in terms of public comment, there's been none in support or opposition. So this is the site. I believe you guys saw this in our January 6th meeting.
And this is the same proposal as we had before, correct?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
still wanting to do, preferably, I believe, a data center, but if not, they would want to do something that's more of like what would be under the commercial warehouse designation. Kind of depends on their studies, what Encore and everything like that, what the actual capability is. Zoning, so a lot of the property to the west, that's owned by the airport. There is another religious institution up north here, highway, and then down here is kind of it's a storage facility, but the rest of it is just vacant land. Property ownification map. And then, so for the criteria for the amendment, I know we've kind of gone through this a few times, so just to reiterate, for a non-residential use desire to transition to a different non-residential use, it should require the following. If it's new construction, develop to conforms to the new standards and concepts. It meets all the compatibility standards for the adjacent uses, and the rezoning does not cause any negative impacts on adjacent uses. And this is the companion case, the zoning case, 2025-19 ZC. So they're wanting to go from State Highway 161 overlay and generalized site plan for commercial office to still State Highway 161 overlay, but generalized site plan for light manufacturing 20A. They want to allow the warehouse and distribution in the overlay and data center as a principal use. After review, staff recommendation is approval, and there was no comment in terms of support or opposition.
I have a quick question. I thought usually if something had gotten denied at council, then it had to wait a period of time before it came back to us.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask that question. So what happened is because this has a comp plan amendment and a zoning case. So if the comp plan amendment is denied, then there's no vote on the zoning case. So there's no 6-month waiting period because there was no vote on the zoning case. And there is no waiting period on a comp plan amendment.
Okay.
So it's a quirk. I do want to say one other thing is the resubmittal of this was still before the data center ordinance change, so they can still do this by the SP zoning as opposed to the CUP.
Is there anything different about the proposal this time than about the one we considered before? It's exactly the same proposal. Do we have any sense of why they think it'll get approved by council this time?
That's something to ask the applicant. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I think there was talk with city council, kind of after the fact. But once again, they should be able to.
Okay. So they think for whatever reason that they may have a better chance this time, even with the same proposal.
We don't like to speculate about what city council might
Yeah.
do.
But the applicant thinks that they have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hence why
Apparently
they,
so,
yeah, since they reapplied, yes.
All right, thank you.
And then this is their site plan. Once again, they're not asking for any variances. The only reason that they do have a site plan is because of that data center use. And I'm open to take, let's see, all right, sorry, photos. So this is the subject property. So this is when you're coming off of Access Road 161. And then Walnut Hill. So just like on the other side of it's where that storage facility is. This is that religious institution I was talking about to the north of it. And then the subject property are on the east of it, that 161. And then south, that storage facility. And then this is the land that's owned by the DFW airport. I will have any comments or questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
All righty.
All right. Item 19.
Good evening again. Gina Costanza Grant, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. The next case is 2025-26-ZC. It's located at 300 North Loop 12. They are requesting a zoning change from CC, Community Commercial, and ML20, Light Industrial 20, to SP2 ML20A, a generalized site plan for Light Industrial 20A with data center as a permitted use. The staff recommendation is for approval, and we did not receive any public comment forms in support or opposition. This is the aerial view of the subject property. Just to kind of explain a little bit, there is an existing data center here that came in before we adopted the data center regulations. So they were allowed under ML20 at that time. The southwestern portion of the property is currently operating as the Big D Travel Center. It's basically a pretty large truck stop, and the applicant is looking to purchase that portion of the property and construct another data center on that portion, and the two will pretty much operate together. So in this particular zoning case, they are requesting to change the zoning of both sites. So the new zoning will encompass the entire parcel with both data centers. This is the future land use map. The area is designated for industrial uses. And this is the surrounding zoning map. And this is the property owner notification map. And this is their proposed site plan. They are needing a site plan to not only establish a data center as a permitted use in the ML20A district, but they are also asking for several variances. The first of those is for the maximum height of a fence in a front yard. Right now, the maximum height is 48 inches and at least 50% through visibility. They are proposing a maximum height of 8.5 feet and 25% through visibility. We've been explained by them that those are mainly security concerns to have that additional fencing at that height. The other variance is to Chapter 33A, which requires a setback for all structures of 30 feet along Loop 12. They are requesting a 15-foot setback for that front yard fence that they are proposing. And again, the last variance is for the screening of rooftop equipment. They are currently required to have all rooftop equipment be fully screened on all sides by an opaque wall, and they are requesting that no rooftop screening would be required on track 2 for the existing data center. So because this data center was built without those requirements, they're just asking to retain that variance for this piece under their new zoning. However, the data center constructed on this portion of the site will comply with the new screening standards. This is looking at the subject property. This portion of the site would be demolished, all the existing truck stop services. And this is looking west of the subject property towards Loop 12, looking to the north. And this is looking south. You can see there's a really large substation located directly south with related transmission lines. They have also told us that they have been in contact with Encore and that those lines and substation can adequately handle the proposed new data center. So I am happy to take any questions that you all might have.
The fencing height and setback variances they're asking for, is that the same as essentially what's already on that existing data center site?
I believe, I know they have some fencing, but
Yeah.
I think theirs might be constructed further in. I don't think they needed a variance.
More or less. Is since this site, since the new site faces Loop 12, it has slightly larger setbacks than what was required on the Wildwood side. So
Okay.
it will be comparable to what was done Wildwood. It's
Wildwood.
just.
They just didn't need
Wildwood
a
did need
variance
a
for that.
variance, yeah.
Okay, because it's the higher fence as well over there, I think. I don't think it's a 4-foot fence over on the Wildwood side.
Yeah, they
Was
got
it?
a special fence plan.
Yeah,
that was
okay, that's what I thought I
approved,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
correct. They did get the special fence plan for that one.
And this would take the place of that.
So it
because
would
it's
look
covered.
the same on the Loop 12 side as it looks on the Wildwood side more, I mean, more or less.
We can't guarantee the
Yeah.
appearance, of course, because we can't, state doesn't let us guarantee appearance, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, assuming they use, but they would be the same sort of fencing that they have over on the Wildwood side. Okay.
I just have, for the, what's currently operated as a truck service area, to your knowledge, is that still operating, or is that?
Yeah.
should
I believe it
didn't
is.
see?
Yeah.
Okay. And I take it one of the key differences of considering this now under the standards at the time versus if it were submitted later, is that they don't require a conditional use permit, it's under a site plan? Are there any other key differences in how this might be considered? Okay.
Do I recall that Mayor Stouffer said that, like it stated the city, did he say that the Edge data center was different from other data centers in that it had less water requirements or less power requirements? How did that work? And wasn't Edge kind of on the forefront of some of that new power?
Yeah, I remember him mentioning something about that. I think would be interesting for the applicant to speak to that, because they had a recycled water process where they were not, they kept it internally, so they were a very low water user, from what I understand. So I think it would be interesting for them to expand on that tonight and kind of describe how their cooling process is different than a typical data center.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they addressed that in their presentation tonight.
In regards to the data center that is next door, has there been any issues you have heard of from nearby neighbors or businesses
It's all industrial.
in regards to power, energy that may have heard? No?
Not that we've been aware of.
Would you know, out of curiosity, they're asking to remove the screening on the rooftop, or just why is that?
That variance would actually only apply to the side that's already existing on Wildwood. At the time, we didn't have the data center standards that required the screening of mechanical equipment, and they were simply allowed under the ML20 zoning that existed at the time. The new site that's adjacent to the Loop 12 portion will have the screening requirements.
Thank you.
But aren't they asking for the change for the entire property?
Yes, but the,
As well as the new.
Which part of the change?
we're going to, there's a note on the site plan that actually excludes that screening requirement to only tract 2 on this site plan.
So they would still have to do the screening requirement for the new data center?
Tract 1, correct, for
It
the
would
new
only be
data
the one that's
center.
already constructed and was constructed
Yes,
without a
and-
screen because it didn't have to at the time.
Correct.
That
But
would
I'm
get to
just
stay that
wondering, why
same.
would we exclude it? It would bring it into compliance with the regulation.
Well, wouldn't it be non-conforming compliant?
It is legally non-conforming at this
It
point.
it is currently,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's legal non-conforming right now, and we believe that since the building is already constructed and operational, that it makes sense that the variance to the screening on the rooftop equipment seems reasonable to us, given that the structure wasn't necessarily designed to have that on there.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
So the next zoning case I will be presenting is 2025-27-CC at 7600 North MacArthur Boulevard, Suite 110. It is currently zoned CC for community commercial, and then wanting to rezone to SP1 RAB, detailed site plan restaurant with accessory use of sales of alcohol beverages for on-premise consumption. Staff recommends approval. We see no letters in support or in opposition. Here is the 1,396 suite, currently in the multi-tenant shopping center. Here's the future land use map. Here's the surrounding zoning map. These two being the site is next to 2 SP1 RABs in this multi-tenant center. Here's the notification map. And then here is the site plan. Currently, and if you drove out there, the business has already started to come in doing some of their interior design, as a restaurant is permitted under the community commercial, but they are wanting to come in to be able to allow alcohol sales. The restaurant must derive at least 40% sales from food or non-alcoholic beverages, with 60% being alcohol. The applicant confirms they will be able to comply with this, and the proposed zoning change does not require any variances or distance variances from school, as they meet the distance requirements from schools, religious facilities, and residential hospitals areas. Here's the subject property, currently showing the Curry Pizza House currently coming in, northwest of subject property, east of subject property, north of subject property being across the street from the multi-tenant center, and then west being across the street. And then, since this does not require any variances, staff can support this case, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
And then the last case for today is zoning case 2025-29-CC and multifamily concept plan 2025-30-MFCP. This is currently located at 6201 Colwell Boulevard. It is currently zoned SP1 RAB for detailed site plan restaurant with the attendant accessory use of sales of alcohol beverages for on-premise consumption and dormitory. And they're wanting to rezone to SP2 RMF2 generalized site plan multifamily residential 2 with variances to section 2.4.14 and 3.13 of the Unified Development Code, including but not limited to maximum density with a with the setbacks, building separation, and maximum height. Staff does recommend approval, and we've seen 19 letters in support and none in opposition. So here is the current property, and if it does look familiar, this case did get presented to you more beginning of last year with a different applicant. This is a different applicant with a different request. So currently, to give some history on this property was zoned in 1987 for dormitories and cafeteria for the AT&T corporate office. In 1988, it was rezoned to allow the sale of alcohol and on-premise beverages for the use for the dormitory cafeteria. The site currently contains 304 dormitory units, 272 units or 505 square feet, and 12 three-story buildings. Amenities included reception buildings, recreation buildings, and pool and tennis courts. This new applicant is wanting to demolish all of those 12 buildings and build a new 406-unit multifamily development with 6 four-story apartment buildings and 4 three-story townhome buildings. Here's the future land use map, the surrounding zoning map, and then here is the notification map. So first we have the generalized site plan. As in the RMF2, it does have a maximum density of only being 18 units per acre. Since this is going to be 403 units on a 13.84 acre site, they are needing a variance to allow 30 units per acre. Here is the breakdown of the units as this will consist of 262 one-bedroom apartments, 118 two-bedroom apartments, and then 26 townhomes. The townhomes are right here in the front with the different 6 buildings being across the property. Here is the concept plan going over some of the amenities, that be a pickleball court, grilling areas, pocket parks, and a complete community building with fitness center and different amenities. So some of the variances that are being asked for consist of the maximum parking, as there can only be a requirement of 10 covered or uncovered parking spaces being between landscape islands. They want it to be a maximum of 12 parking spaces. The buildings can only be a maximum of 200 feet. They're wanting to increase that to 260. Because of this being outside the urban business center, the requirement is the maximum can only be 3 stories or 36 feet. They are requesting it be 4 stories, 48 feet maximum. Due to the townhomes being closer to the roadway, there is a minimum building setback being from an 80 feet or greater right-of-way for per street master plan. That'd be 35 feet plus 5 feet for each story above 2 feet. The townhomes are 3 stories, and they are 30 feet away from the property line. And then they have a few minimum side and rear yard setbacks. The requirement is 25 feet from non-residential multifamily uses, and they are wanting to be 10 feet side yard setback from the 4-story buildings, 25 feet from the rear yard setbacks for the 4-story, and then 10 feet for the accessory structures and carports and detached garages they have on site. The minimum separation of buildings is 30 feet, and they have 20 feet for the townhomes. And then usable open space is a requirement of 25% of net floor area, and they're requesting it to be a minimum of 10% for the net floor area. Here are some of the applicants' illustrative drawings and some of the renderings. Here is the subject property from the street, east of subject property, and then north of subject property. And based on this being able to meet the comprehensive plan amendment for mid-density, and staff does believe the variances permits the variances due to this being pretty typical for these type of developments, especially when you get to the 4 stories and wanting to create this amount of density. So staff can support this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for this.
Don't the extra height create issues with fire and their trucks and stuff like that?
So, yes, fire was able to review the requests, and they did not have any comments. The only comment, as the applicants have been working closely with all of staff, that be inspections, fire, and traffic. They have sent numerous concept plans through, and based on this one that they sent through, there was no major comments from fire besides that it must conform with all future safety codes. So, sprinkler, water, all those things, but it fit the fire lane and all the other requirements they had.
He's giving a thumbs up back there. I will say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, one of the things that fire department actually likes about these is because it's the townhome style is actually multifamily, so they can enforce their sprinkler requirements. Am I right? Basically, yeah. Okay.
Only that front part is townhome style?
Yeah.
Yes,
Along
that's correct.
Colwell, okay.
Mhm, right along here.
Just those units.
What happened to the last applicant that came through for that same property?
Yeah, so that went to council and it did get denied at council.
Okay.
It's been long enough, I don't remember in great detail how different this is from,
So it's quite different. Yeah.
okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay. So that was what I was thinking, was this is a lot more dense.
It is.
Okay, that,
Well, the last applicant was just, I'll say remodeling the dormitory rooms. And as I understand it, the new applicant is completely tearing it down. We start from
Correct.
scratch.
Correct.
And a big difference between the last applicant, they were reducing the amount of units from the dorm, so it was going to be less than 302 because they were needing to make bigger units because of the size the dormitories were. So this is a huge increase from that.
So it's going to be less dense, and now it's going to be.
more dense. Okay. Any other questions?
Just one quick question. How close are these townhouses to the road? Because the townhouses on Royal, for example, their front door is on Royal. You always sort of see a trash bag out in the middle, on the grass side, but nobody ever uses their front door. So, it just seems like an odd look
Yeah.
for townhomes.
So
Not
they're
that
gonna-
I'm unopposed, but it just,
They're 30 feet away from the property line. And then I know this property is elevated, and so CIP did make a comment about there will be a new impervious area to how to make some things work together.
there'll be a new what area?
Impervious, so kind of filling and some of the height.
Thanks.
So they own two other properties, right, to the north? How big are those, how many units are on those complexes they own? Will you know?
We didn't have they're comparable size, but the applicant can answer that tonight.
It's a lot more land, though. So it's not.
Your mic's not on.
Well, yeah, on the I guess the units per acre, how dense it is compared to this. And what about the ones around Las Colinas? I don't know if you'll know how usual it is to have this density per acre.
In Irving.
We don't have the numbers off the top of our head, but the layout and the design of these is typical for the area, especially for the ones you're referring to the north. It's very standard for the product that they typically provide. So they'll have to give you those numbers, but it's not unusual for this pattern and height in the area.
And how many units is the existing facility now?
302.
And all parking will be exterior parking?
Yes.
That's how I'm seeing that, no garage.
No garage parking. Yeah, it will be different detached garages and carports and things like that.
What is that of the Exxon campus to the south? There was on the next slide there was something about Exxon. Yeah.
Oh, it's just around, it's close to, the Exxon property campus is not far from them, just south.
Oh.
It's not across the street.
Yeah, it's not across the street. They're just saying it's in the vicinity area, but it's not.
Any other questions? No? Great. And was that your last one?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We don't get to do that. All right. Any future agenda items? Okay, then we are adjourned at 6:44 PM, and we will meet in the other room at 7.